John Bentley.
What's up, Cowboys fam? It's your boy J Tuck, Cowboys Up. Welcome to the Cowboys Fans Only Show. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead, comment, like, subscribe. Somewhere down there. Well, guys, last night we had a big show with my guy, West Coast Cowboy. Everyone was so fired up in the chat, man. He came through and brought that heat. But we're going to keep things going because I told you guys, coming off the bye week, I was refreshed. I was ready to get back to football, man, and hopefully get back to winning. So I brought a great football mind, one of the Cowboys reporters for D210 Sports, Brianna Dix. Brianna, how are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you for joining us. So for the people who don't know where to find you, go ahead and tell them where they can find you before we dive into football.
Yeah, so I am on Twitter at Dix Brianna, on Instagram at Brianna M Dix, and Facebook, but
Yeah,
who
Facebook. Yeah, Facebook.
does
Yeah,
that these
everybody
days?
does Facebook anymore. Yeah. So the question that I always ask guests when they come on, because we got to make sure that you're validated, right? As a serious diehard Cowboys fan. So, what made you become a Dallas Cowboys fan and want to put up with all the stuff that we go on as Cowboys fans?
Oh yes, the added scrutiny that comes with America's team. Well, I actually grew up in the Dallas area. I grew up in Granbury, Texas, so little small town southwest of Dallas,
Okay.
and I just grew up watching the NFL with my dad, and always had kind of I guess, a weird passion for it that I really started to really see kind of once I got into high school. And I always tell people I remember back in a global business class I had, and a coach taught it. So of course he always used like sports analogies, and one day he did an NFL riddle game, and
Okay.
I'm like spouting off like all these teams, different divisions, and people are just looking at me like, what? I mean,
What?
and even a lot of football guys in the class had no idea like what I was even talking about.
Uh-huh.
And so that was just kind of really around when I was going off to college, was really when I knew that I wanted to pursue broadcasting. I wanted to pursue going into sports, and I went to Dallas Baptist, and unfortunately they didn't have, a great sports journalism department like SMU or TCU. But for me, I'm actually glad in the way that it turned out, just because I had to really work my butt off
Mm-hmm.
and challenge myself for every single thing I got. I wasn't handed interviews for classes. I had to go out, network, and seek those. And to be honest, that's really helped me and given me kind of that strength now with what I do,
Mhm.
because that's something that I've always had to do, and it was never something that was handed to me. And we were talking about earlier, but Roger Staubach was one of the interviews that I was able to do through networking and through one of the big donor dinners that
Mhm.
DBU had. So, just trying to take advantage during college, working all the sporting events and just trying to get my hands on, any way that I could interview a former player or be around anything. And then
Mhm.
ended up interning with the Dallas Cowboys in 2016 as a game day event presentation intern. So, and
Okay.
then that's kind of how I got connected with D210 Sports and my boss now.
Perfect, perfect. So from the outside fan perspective, we have Troy Aikman, Roger Staubach, Tony Romo, Dak Prescott. So tell us, what was it like to be in the same room with Roger Staubach?
Wow, that that was interesting, especially for me because that was the first interview that I ever did,
Oh
especially
wow.
in person interview.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like walking in, it's like, oh my goodness, and of course he has like Cowboys memorabilia everywhere, footballs and pictures on the wall. But it was actually in a conference room in his real estate business in Dallas, the LLC Corporation. So
Okay.
we're just sitting in a conference room, just across the table and just chatted with him. But he is such a down to earth, like sweet guy, and of course, with him, you got to bring up the Hail Mary pass. So of
Right.
course, when I start asking about it, he starts like rolling up his sleeve and he shows me a tattoo that he got on his arm and he's laughing and he's like, "Oh, my wife Marianne didn't think I would do it." And I'm just,
so
sitting there, but it was, oh
so
my
is
goodness.
it of the Hail Mary? Is that the tattoo?
Yes.
Uh,
He got it's a star and then he got, I think if I remember correctly, he got the year on it and then Hail Mary written. And he laughed and said that Drew Pearson wanted to get a matching one, but he wouldn't down.
now, yeah, man. 'Cause a lot of people, like especially the younger football people, they really don't know the Hail Mary comes from the Dallas Cowboys. Like, yeah, see,
Oh yeah.
we a lot of the stuff that you guys enjoy and you talk about comes from Dallas. So I'm going to put you on a spot. You have to pick one and only one all-time favorite Dallas Cowboys player.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's extreme. I think for me, it would either honestly be Roger Staubach. I mean, Mr. Cowboy, Roger the
Right,
Dodger, Captain Comeback. I don't really think it honestly gets much better than him, or I'd have to say Emmitt Smith.
Emmitt
I mean,
Smith.
the NFL's all-time leading rusher. Yeah, I mean,
It's
I'd
hard.
say
It's
either
hard to
either
pick
one
just
of
one.
those. I think kind of changed the game.
Hmm.
In kind of reinvented Cowboys history at the time when they played.
Exactly, exactly. So speaking of Dallas Cowboys football, this season hasn't gone according to plan. So tell me a little bit. How are you feeling? How, yeah, not we really didn't plan for things to go like this. So tell me a little bit about how you're feeling about this season thus far.
Yeah, 2-7 didn't exactly meet those high expectations, but I think this year has been so insane. Just any way you look at it for this team,
Hmm.
not even talking the COVID things going on, the protocols, but also just the amount of injuries this team has had. I cannot remember a time
Yeah,
a team had this many significant injuries, and these aren't just injuries to depth pieces. These are your cornerstone star players that
exactly.
are not playing, and players coming in that this team counted on and expected to be there that you're missing at positions on both sides of the ball. So, not only are they're having to shuffle guys around for that as well. And so, and I think one of the biggest issues in the kind of what's gotten so much criticism with everybody and especially with coaching staff is just the repeated mistakes
Hmm.
that happened over and over, even prior to Dak Prescott's injury, on offense. I mean, Dak was putting up these insane numbers, but that was because they were having to come from behind, and he was having to almost play a perfect game just to keep the Cowboys in it.
Hmm.
Passing for over 400 yards game after game because they were having all these turnovers. They were leading lead with fumbles. So they had to be that pass heavy offense. They weren't able to create that balanced attack, and were having to pass the ball. And so, and I think a lot of the blame kept going to the defense, but I mean, the offense wasn't spectacular by any means either. You had
Hmm.
these constant repeated mistakes, and then defensively, The run defense. I mean, I think,
Oh boy, yeah.
anybody can attribute to that. I mean, running backs have consistently had career high days against the
Mhm.
Cowboys. It didn't matter who was carrying the ball, if it's inside, outside zone, it didn't matter. They're looking like Hall of Famers out there against the
Exactly.
Cowboys. And that, and then also, you consistently have seen the missed tackles, the issues with the gap integrity, and then in the secondary, the poor eye discipline, guys looking at the quarterback instead of looking at the receiver that, they're shadowing.
Mhm.
And, but I think that as this season has progressed, you're finally starting to see some continuity and some chemistry. The defenses had coming off the two best games before the bye. They were able to force four turnovers against the Eagles, and then against the Steelers were actually able to, unrecognizably maybe, but they were actually able to stop the run, held them to 46 rushing yards. So I think you're starting to see players, getting more comfortable in Mike Nolan's scheme
Mhm.
and kind of, especially for the veteran players, kind of unlearning what, they had done for so long in Rod Marinelli's scheme and kind of transitioning over. And even, with the offense, they were finally able to get some chemistry and kind of some continuity with Garrett Gilbert. He
Mhm.
came in there, had poise in the pocket, showcased that little, mobility, extending drives with his legs, and it was
Exactly.
like,
It
okay,
caught me
I'll
by
give you
surprise.
this,
That very first play when we ran a read option, I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." Well,
right?
so yeah, and I definitely agree. I feel like with the Dallas Cowboys, especially this season, it's either been offense and no defense or defense and no offense. Things just really hasn't been in sync. And you mentioned earlier, this is pre-Dak injury. With the defense, it was just a lack of continuity, a lot of miscommunications. But my
Right.
problem was a lot of these guys come from last year, from the Jason Garrett regime, and so I felt like something had to change, and I felt like what's going on right now, you're seeing Mike Nolan not only simplify things for this defense, but we're getting a lot of our proven leaders back with Leighton Vander
Right.
Esch, also
Yes.
Sean Lee. Now, granted, it hurts bad that we lost Trayvon Diggs because he was starting to excel and really gain some ground as a quarterback, a cornerback, especially as a rookie. But we do get Cheeto back on Sunday, so hopefully we can get a lot of continuity back with this defense, and they can maintain on the offensive side of the ball. I see the chat is already lighting up. Andy Dalton, or were you more of a kind of stick with Garrett Gilbert and let him get the opportunity, especially after what we saw against Pittsburgh?
So I was one of the pro Garrett Gilbert people. I thought, at this point in the season for the Cowboys, I think, why not give him a shot? Why
Mhm.
not continue with what's working? I mean, people, to be honest, prior to that game were already kind of writing his eulogy,
Mhm.
kind of the bless his heart. And then he goes out there and he has more poise and confidence in the pocket than obviously Ben DiNucci, but more than Andy Dalton,
Exactly.
and guys responded to him. He was able to create the rhythm, was able to sustain drives, was able to move the ball downfield, and not
Mhm.
only that, but spread out the ball to a variety of different receivers, which we haven't really seen since Dak Prescott's injury. So I was kind of suspecting possibly the team sticking with him, but then again, with Andy Dalton, you have that experience level, and that's something that, to be honest, Mike McCarthy and the staff has just beat into the wall this season. Is just experience, 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 and
Exactly.
he has that. He was that bona fide starter for the Bengals for 9 seasons. And
Mhm.
I mean that's why you got him. As arguably the best backup in the NFL. So obviously, that's where the money is, and they're gonna, put him out there because he has that resume.
Mhm.
So I think, they're gonna go with experience over, the consistency. But I don't think you can take too light of though the job that Gilbert did against a great team like the Steelers. Coming in, I mean, they had the fifth ranked best defense in the league.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know Cowboys fans, and Cowboys fans. If Andy Dalton gets off to a slow start, we're gonna be screaming for Garrett Gilbert to get
Oh
back
my
in the game.
gosh,
And the
yes.
reason why, granted, Andy Dalton does have a veteran experience. He's been in the NFL for quite some time. He's been a Pro Bowler in playoff games, all of that. But I feel like with their offensive line, the way there hasn't been in sync, and a lot of the pressure that's been applied, especially in the right tackle position, and we'll talk about that. I feel like having someone that can actually use their legs and get out when things get hot, it really adds to our offense. Now, granted, maybe Garrett Gilbert can't make the throws that Andy Dalton can, But Garrett Gilbert really adds a new dynamic to our offense, which I like to see because we were used to having that with Dak Prescott, even be able to use the read option a little bit. Like I said, I had no idea we could run a read option with Garrett Gilbert until I saw it at the very first play. I was like, okay, but he had poise, and it seemed like this team actually had some fire playing with Garrett Gilbert. There's a different kind of step. I don't know if it was just that Sunday, because honestly, I didn't give us much of a chance Sunday. I was just like, let's get this over
I
with.
don't think anybody did.
It's like, it's like when you're gonna fight that bully, after school, it's like just don't hurt me too bad. That's how I felt. But like halfway through the game, I'm like, we actually can win this
They
game.
dominated really for
Exactly.
the first 3 quarters of the game.
Exactly. And our defense was able to get stops in critical moments. And I'm just like, all right, we can win this game, but eventually the Steelers were able to get that win. But yeah, I would like to see more Garrett Gilbert, and I think we might, man. It really just depends on what Andy Dalton brings to this team. I believe if there is a slow
Right.
start on Sunday, they might go with Garrett Gilbert and kind of see if he can bring a new spark. So I gotta let you know something about this show, though, Brianna. I have an abundance of Eagles fans who watch my channel, man, and I appreciate each and every one of you. They're all in the chat right now.
Oh,
So
that hostile environment,
yeah,
though.
exactly. Yeah, keep your enemies close, right? Is what they say. So shouts out to my guy Philly Notion, Andy Dalton 88. Get ready for that L on Sunday. Gilbert deserves to start. Y'all tanking for real. And this is what I try to explain. Even though we've had a lot of quarterback uncertainty, Ben DiNucci or Gucci or Nucci, man, what we call him on Twitter, he actually outplayed Carson Wentz when we played the Eagles. So, shouts out to my guy, Philly Insider Podcast. Shouts out to my guy, the Lunatic, everybody in the chat. So keep the questions coming. So I want to start off with a few hot topic items that happened this past week, Brianna. So Jalen Smith. There seems to be a lot of Cowboys fans that are hot and cold when it comes to Jalen Smith. I
Yes.
personally am a big Jalen Smith fan, but we have seen a lot of moments where things just didn't look in sync, especially if you go back and watch the film. And also against the game versus the Steelers, he had a lot of critical penalties that were very costly. So there was a story that broke, I think, yesterday about possibly Jalen Smith restructuring his deal with the Cowboys or being released. What is your thoughts on Jalen Smith and what should the Cowboys do moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, really, to be honest, throughout this season, in I mean, granted, the tape will reveal, some of the issues he's had, filling gaps, some of the blown coverages, the missed tackles, and that's definitely something you see when you look at. But he's faced so much criticism. And I think a lot of that, it's the scrutiny of America's team, but also, I mean, he's the leader on the defense. He's
Mm-hmm.
the guy, when when Sean and Leighton Van Der both had injuries, I mean, he's the guy out there. He's calling plays. He is the leader of this defense, and
Mm-hmm.
it's his job to get players lined up, make sure they're doing the right thing. And he does have a lot of responsibility, and I think he places kind of a lot of additional responsibility ability on himself, kind of like Zeke does on the
Mm-hmm.
offense, especially when Dak went out.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of feels like the weight of the team is on his shoulders, and for for Jalen, I think, I'm it's I mean, it's difficult because I think so many people are very quick to criticize, and I think you have to look at a lot of, this season together. And I was talking with Dat Wynn, who is a former Cowboys
Mm-hmm.
linebacker and a quality control coach for Dallas. And I mean, I brought up, just kind of the topic of the regression that, is kind of the narrative out there with Jalen this season.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very complimentary of him, and just was like, I mean, this guy is somebody that plays 3 downs. Not many linebackers in the NFL could do that, but he does it at a high level. He, brings that leadership element. He's a guy that, players rally behind. And he's, I don't really I think you have to look at this season as a whole. And yeah, it hasn't necessarily been perfect for him. And there's
Mm-hmm.
been times where, I mean, it's almost comical a little bit when you see some of the misdirection, at the snap, and he's, completely leaves his gap, and you have a whole huge exposed for either a
Mm-hmm.
quarterback or a ball carrier to go through. But I think too, a lot of it is his contract. He gets the money, and so immediately when players get money,
Especially
is
in
he
Dallas.
performing? What is he when he gets a $60 million contract extension? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, where's the production?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I mean, that's honestly a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it would be a little too quick and hasty to judge based off the insanity of this season
Hmm.
regarding not only injuries but just a new scheme, a new everything coming in. I mean, you have to keep in mind like this team is used to the Rard Marinelli base 4-3, get
Hmm.
up and attack that one gap system. Well, now you bring in Mike Nolan, you have more of the 3-4 looks, more of the defensive end as the strong side linebacker rushing, and the two gap. And so you've got, as Jerry Jones explained earlier, you've got guys, down linemen having to kind of sit and hold the line of scrimmage and looking at, okay, do I go this way or this way? And then based off how the play breaks down, well, then the linebacker has to essentially go the other way. And so it's not that get up and attack and that immediate reaction. So you're seeing kind of some hesitation there at times. And I think that's one of the biggest things for Jalen is he's a guy that, like he did at Notre Dame, just being able to react and not having to
Hmm.
think too much. And I think there
Exactly.
was a lot of that excitement when the season began, and it was okay. Leighton was going to be middle. He was going to be the calling plays, and then Jalen was going to be able to go back to the weak side and do what he did at Notre Dame, which he did at such a high efficiency.
Hmm.
Well, then
Leighton goes
course,
down very first
2020
game.
Cowboys, all the injuries happen and it all breaks loose.
Exactly.
Leighton fractures his collarbone in week one.
Hmm.
And then immediately things changed, and he has an inconsistent group of guys, with him every game. It's Joe Thomas one week. Well, then you've got Leighton finally coming back in, Sean coming back in.
Hmm.
And you don't really have that communication. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go make this risky play, but you've got my back. You can, fill that gap.
Hmm.
But you don't really have that communication. You don't have that chemistry and consistency. And then you've got holes exposed, you've got seams, and so then of course that leaves all day for quarterback, running backs, and they run all over them, and you've seen that displayed game after game.
Exactly.
So, I understand the criticism and I think it is valid, but I also think you have to look at this from a big picture standpoint. And I don't really think you can make a fair assessment or judgment based off this this crazy season. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like there's so many different variables that you have to take into account.
Exactly. And I think a lot of Cowboys fans are not taking everything that's gone into consideration with this team. I
Right.
mean, getting a brand new coach, not getting a full offseason, no preseason, all the changes that's been done, thus far. I feel like this team really just hasn't gotten in sync yet. And it's someone, let's see here. I think it was the Lunatic. So was it bad interior defensive line play affecting Jalen Smith? I believe so. I believe when we had
Yeah,
Don
that's
Terry
a great
Poe
point.
and some of those guys, like as a linebacker, and I play outside linebacker, you really want to keep your linebackers clean, and that's the defensive
Yeah.
line's job. But if you're getting blocked and those offensive linemen are getting up to that second level, getting up to the linebackers, it's really hard because you're outmatched. Like, Jalen's probably what,
Oh yeah.
235, 240 ish. You get one of those big linemen, those guards on top of you, it's really hard to do what you're doing. And that's what we were saying. A lot of teams were just establishing the run games. When you think about that Browns game, I can't remember that kid's name who rushed for like tons of yards in the Browns game. That like the guy was
Oh
off the
yeah, after Chubb got hurt.
exactly. Ah,
Oh
because I picked him up on my fantasy team, and then he didn't
like
play next week.
D Ernest.
Yeah, Ernest, that was his name. The,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
guy who was
yeah.
like off the fishing boat. Yeah, and so we
Yeah.
saw so many of those
Like,
moments, just getting
oh,
rushed over and getting the ball just ran down our throat. And I think a lot of that was the defensive line play. You mentioned Neville Gallimore stepping up and playing big, also making the shift to Antoine Woods. Antoine Woods has played a
oh
lot
yeah.
better. And so I think what the Cowboys really did, they trimmed the fat. They got rid of Don Terry Poe. They got rid of Daryl Worley. They traded Everson Griffin. So they're getting a lot of these guys who are back in sync because they played with each other last year. And that's why you're kind of seeing the jump. Because granted, we went from like 32 to being on track to being one of the historically worst defenses in the NFL of all time to
Yeah,
being
crazy.
okay.
Like seriously, like making records for franchise worst, like the 307 rushing yards against the Browns. Like, oh my
Exactly. It
god.
was every Sunday. I'm just like wide open touchdowns that either me or yourself could catch, and it's just a huge mess. So I'm glad to see that the defense is starting to get in sync. Hopefully, find some wood, knock on the Cowboys fan, that remains intact, that they didn't lose themselves over the bye week and they revert back to what we saw in that Washington game. But I think we're starting to see the defense excel. So let's go to the offensive side of the ball. We spoke about the quarterback position, so we're probably going to roll with Andy Dalton. But let me ask you this, Brianna. Are you team draft, team tank, or are you team fight? Let's go ahead and try to win the division, and whatever happens, happens.
Oh goodness.
That's the
I mean, yeah, and God, the NFC East. I mean, it's oh, I mean, it's laughing stock division. But
and they won't put us out of our misery. Philadelphia fans, if you guys would just put us out of our misery, I can start working on my mock drafts. But every time I call it Draft Island. It's like a little beautiful place where it's like me, a bunch of Jets fans. We hang out. We have volleyball, like poolside, all that stuff. But every time I go to Draft Island, here comes the Eagles with another loss, and I'm thinking, well, we can still win this division. I mean, we spoke about it last night. We win the division games, maybe beat one, Cincinnati or maybe the 49ers, and we can absolutely go to the playoffs. And so I want to get your input because I know it's kind of split. It's a civil war right now when it comes to Cowboys fans. A lot of Cowboys fans are just done, team tank, just try to get a top 5 pick. But a lot of fans, including myself, let's just continue to fight and let's see what happens. Where are you?
no, I'm definitely let's continue to fight and see what happens. And I think, the at 2-7, I think some of that, the pressure to perform really isn't there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was at the beginning as the losses have continued to stack up. And I think now you're seeing improvement too, just guys going out there and just having fun and doing their job and
Mm-hmm.
trying to work together. And I think that's what you need to build off of at this point. I mean, I don't think you should be like pulling guys or doing different stuff just to because it's you don't care. I think they should just finish the season out and see what happens. And I think at this point is when you can really get have fun with the game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Try new things out, see what works well, and then build off that for next season, seeing what happens and what goes well in these last several games of the season. Because I mean, they have I think like the second easiest schedule moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's that's where I'm at.
So when we saw the game plan against the Steelers, do you think that was because we're kind of playing the hopeless position where we're really the underdogs and whatever happens happens? When we saw the kickoff reverse and different things like that, or do you think that's really a staple of who the new Dallas Cowboys identity will be? We'll see a lot more of that moving forward because Sunday's play calling from Kellen Moore, also from the special team side, like it looked on in sync. And so I just want to know, like, or was we just playing like, whatever happens, happens. We can just run a few reverses and different things like that. So who really cares? Or do you think that we're going to continue to see that throughout the season?
I think it may be a little bit of both. And I mean, incredible credit to Kellen Moore. The revolving door at quarterback this season and the game plan that he has come up with every single week to try and help the guy that's under center. That is remarkable to me, the job that he has done. So I think part of that is trying to help out who that person is, like all the crazy trick plays, with
Mm-hmm.
Ben DiNucci and just the different things that you've seen kind of played out and trying to play into the strengths of who is playing quarterback and throw off defenses. But I think you might see more of that moving forward, and I think that's something that Mike McCarthy said in his year off when he went back and he watched film and when he looked at different teams. I mean, one of the first things he said was how much he admired and loved Kellen Moore and the
Mm-hmm.
just kind of his innovative mind with the motion plays and just the random things that he dialed up, for Dak last season and that stuff that he marveled at. So I think you are going to see them, kind of maybe emptying the playbook a little bit more as the season
Exactly.
progresses.
And
But
dump
I think
everything out.
that's kind of what's exciting to me though, is seeing, and maybe even the thing, the onside kicks and things they've done on special teams with John Fossil. Just, let's try it out. Let's see how it works. This has worked in the past, or this
Mm-hmm.
has gone well for this. Let's see, what it looks like in this game.
Yeah, and then it's time to evaluate and see what we really have. But like I say to everyone, when I say evaluate, I'm not saying necessarily tank because the guys that I want to see play, I believe they can actually help this team as is currently. We talk about Francis Bernard, we talk about Bradley Anae. I'm a huge Bradley Anae fan. For some reason, he's just not seeing the field. And also, I really want to see what Reggie Robinson can bring to this team. I know we just mentioned in the chat that Brandon
Free
Knight.
Reggie Robinson. He's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
trending.
free Reggie Robinson, man. Like, geez, how worse can he be? Like, we've seen safeties get beat game after game after game. I'm like, if I'm Reggie Robinson, I can say, Coach, I can do that. So, I would like to see some of these guys, but someone also mentioned in chat that Brandon Knight's going to be off keep. Terrence still getting beats, what I call him, at right tackle. And so I feel like there's not going to be adjustments. In so you see like the Brandon Knights and the Connor McGoverns, those are the type of players I want to see. What can they actually do in an NFL game? And I would like to get them more reps. But it looks like Mike McCarthy isn't going to roll. These guys are going to kind of stick as is. So,
Right. No, and that was one of the disputes whenever you had, earlier with Terrence, so people wanting to move Zach Martin to right tackle.
yeah,
And yeah, they weren't having any of that. Whatever the least amount of shuffle they can do and keep consistency in the offensive line, they're trying to do.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm like you. I think you should put Brandon Knight the moment he's available and activated. You need to put him in there
Exactly.
at right tackle. Leave Cam Irving fine left tackle, yes, but they just, they want to keep that consistency for as much as possible, specifically within, the offensive line. That's been something they've stressed really throughout the season. So I am not surprised, honestly, by that decision.
Yeah. So Andy Dalton, if you can hear us, run, get out of there, man, because they're gonna come after you. Get out of there.
Yes,
So,
or tight ends, give us
yeah,
some help.
yeah, I know. If I'm Andy Dalton, I'm hiking the
Like,
ball, and
no,
I'm just,
let's get
I'm just
going,
looking right,
Joel.
looking at my right side, seeing what's coming off of Terrence Steele's side. Like, no, you're not coming off that way. So we mentioned about the schedules. Our schedule gets easier. Eagles fans, yours get a little bit more difficult than ours. So, what do you think the odds really are for the Dallas Cowboys to actually win this division as we currently stand?
I I know that they have one of the easiest divisions, but I mean, we also have 2 wins in 9 games, so the
Right.
Cowboys are going to have to work, harder and win more games than the rest of the division is. So I don't see it happening.
Mhm.
I think some other people might differ on that account, but I don't see them winning the division. Now, granted, I think we, along with Philly, are the only 2 teams in the NFC East that have a win outside the division. So they
Mhm.
do have that, but I don't.
Don't see it happening. Yeah, and
Yeah,
the only
I mean,
reason why I'm kind of up in the air, Cowboys fam, is because I'm just not sure what Andy Dalton or what quarterback I'm actually getting. If I saw some type of glimpse of Andy Dalton that he can reveal and go back to his old self prior to his injury, then I would feel more confident. But he didn't look good before he got hurt versus Washington. And with the weapons that we have in place, Ezekiel Elliott's still been struggling a little bit for whatever reason, and Andy Dalton just can't get the ball to the CeeDee Lambs, the Michael Gallups, and also the Mari Coopers. Let them do what they do best. So that's a huge concern with me. If we had a guy who just get the ball to these guys and let them do their thing, I would be more optimistic about this season. But as of right now, it's a huge question mark, and we'll have to see going into Sunday's game. So great transition. So I know you're not Team Tank, so you can't be let's go get a quarterback. So, what do you think the Dallas Cowboys are going to finally do when it comes to Dak Prescott next season with his contract? Do you think it's going to be franchise tag, long-term deal, or are they going to be shopping the market looking to get rid of him?
I I am not for shopping the market or drafting quarterback. I think Dak has. I mean, even if you had doubts prior to this season, I don't know how you can't look at this season and not say pay the man. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he every single week gave his all on the field. I mean, seriously, he has a dislocation in his ankle and he's pounding it into the ground trying to go back into the game.
Right.
And then, I don't remember if it was the previous game or several games earlier where he had the concussion and he went out for, several plays and was in the medical tent. And he immediately comes out and rushes head first into the end zone for a touchdown.
Right.
I mean, he repeatedly gives his all, and I don't understand the reservations or why, to be honest, prior to this he hadn't gotten the money. But I don't think franchise tagging him is going to be an option. And there was even the rumors that, the deal didn't get done prior to the season. He was okay with the money amount. The issue was, I had heard that he had finally agreed to that money amount, but it was don't franchise tag me. We're taking that off the table, and front office wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I I don't think that's going to be happen. I think he should get a long-term deal,
Mm-hmm.
but that remains to be seen, I guess. If
Yeah.
if this front office agrees, or why, to be honest, that it hasn't really gotten done up to that point, because I think, the longer that it waited and the longer it didn't get done, and you saw all these other players get their deals.
Hmm.
You saw Maury get the deal, you saw Tank get the deal, you saw Jalen Smith get the deal, and I was like, okay, well,
Where's the next deal?
where's the quarterbacks?
Exactly.
Where's this franchise quarterback's deal?
Hmm.
So we'll see, but I think he has over earned the right for a long term
Yeah,
contract.
I agree. And I'm sure the Dallas Cowboys reporter is going to give you a lot of things to report this offseason with this Dak contract. Because here we go again, another offseason with all this lingering information when it
Oh,
comes to the Dak Prescott deal. Will it be a deal? Will it be a franchise tag? So it's going to be a busy summer once again. So, yeah, the Lunatic, great question, because we had West Coast Cowboy last night, and he said that for the tag, it'll be around 42, 43 mil, not the reported 38. And I think what he was saying about something like a tax that was going to be added on for the franchise tag to push Dak up to 42, 43. So I'm not really sure about that. But even at 38 mil, that is a huge, huge burden against your cap with 38 mil. So I would just say, let's just find Dak and sign him for a long-term deal. But I think it's going to have to come where it's going to be Dak Prescott's side's going to cave a little bit, and also the Cowboys going to cave a little bit, and it's going to have to be a middle ground. But also,
yeah.
what I'm also thinking is, like, if you're Dak Prescott and you played hardball this long, I mean, what's to stop you from continuing to play it? But I think what just happened will be an eye opener for Dak. Like, let's just get on the football. Hopefully, both sides can come to a deal, because I personally believe, and I was almost in tears after that Giants game on this show. Like, I couldn't even focus. But after
Yeah.
Dak went hurt, it was just, I believe Dak is our leader. I think he brings a lot to this team, and we definitely need him for the foreseeable future, because I believe he is the quarterback, y'all, that can actually bring the Cowboys to a Super Bowl. I
Well, and to
said
be
that, and I
honest,
believe
I
it.
mean, following the injury, I mean, it was not only did you lose that starter, but you left the the fight of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, went down when he went down.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you're finally starting to see some of that, return, just as guys kind of get more comfortable in the schemes with what they're doing. They're getting guys back, they're getting more consistency, and you're starting to see kind of that light come back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for a while, I mean, it was, oh geez.
Yeah, it took the air out of it. But here's what I want to tell all like Cowboys fans: they're wanting to like go into this whole rebuild, tear everything, sell Jalen Smith to Marcus Lawrence, get rid of Zeke. But I don't feel like the Cowboys are a bad team. I just think we're an injured, riddled team right now. You got to think about it, guys. Coming back next year, if healthy, we get Tyron Smith back. Now, granted, we need an insurance policy for him next year, possibly. Lyle Collins, that would shore up the right tackle
Right.
position.
Yeah.
Also getting Blake Jarwin back, getting Dak Prescott back, getting Tristan Hill back, getting Trayvon Diggs back. So we have a lot of these core guys coming back next year if they can stay healthy. We just need a few little pieces here and there to get us over the hump. But I feel like from a talent perspective, as far as our roster is concerned, we have more than enough. I think it's more of an issue of depth versus our front core when it comes to the Cowboys. So I'm not fully a fan of blowing up everything. I feel like Mike McCarthy was hired as a Dallas Cowboys head coach to get this team currently as it stands in place over the hump. I don't think that Jason Garrett, or not Jason Garrett, but Jerry Jones had in mind replacing Jason Garrett to fully rebuild. It was to get us over that hump. So, guys, just
Right.
relax, breathe a little bit.
But
It'll be
the
okay.
Cowboys Nation can't do that.
No,
They
Cowboys
they,
Nation
they
does
don't
not
relax,
relax
you
and like
know?
what? No, no, like
I mean, last year you had people calling for all the coaching staff's head the entire year. Well, guess what? They finally appeased you. They got an entirely new coaching staff.
right,
Well, then this year it's, oh, well, fire Mike Nolan, or yeah, get rid of all these players. And it's like they did what you asked.
right,
They brought in an entirely new guys, but you still have the same culture from last year. So not only on top of the injuries, but you're trying to bring in, a new culture, get the consistency with the coaches, which you didn't really have any time with during the off season because it was an entirely virtual off season
right.
program. So, I mean, you're still trying to kind of build everything together and create a new atmosphere here in Dallas with, your new coaching staff, but you have a different group of guys hitting the field each week.
Exactly. And granted,
Yeah.
Cowboys fam, you guys were on the show. I kind of jumped off the ledge too. I wanted Mike McCarthy gone because I was just so frustrated of everything going on with these going for it on fourth down and fake punts and the watermelon kicks. Like I had it up to here, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Like let's just get, like I said, January 3rd will be here sooner than you know. It'll be over. and then we can just move forward and get ready for next year. But I feel like this team has a little bit of fight left in them. So, speaking of fight left, we have a matchup against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. So, some of my keys to victory. Yes, I said a victory. Hopefully, the Dallas Cowboys can get a win because I'm tired of spending my Sundays losing. I don't like this. Like, I just want to get back to winning a little bit. I want to have victory Mondays and all that stuff, fun stuff, man. So I'm really tired of losing on Sunday. So hopefully, the Cowboys can get back to winning. And it sounds like from hearing what Ezekiel Elliott said today, and then also DeMarcus Lawrence this week, I think the team is tired of losing. They're ready to get back to winning too. Like, this is not what they're used to, especially Ezekiel Elliott. Like, coming from Ohio State, coming right into the Cowboys and leading off on an incredible run. They're not used to just getting punched in the mouth every game, losing Sunday after Sunday. So I feel like they want to change in Dallas. So hopefully, we'll see a new hunger with this team on Sunday. So my first key to victory, and I'm sure we all can agree, Cowboys fam, stop the run.
Stop Dalvin Cook.
Stop
Yes.
Dalvin Cook. Now, everyone on the show and everyone who follows me on Twitter knows I am pretty much Dalvin Cook's number one fan because I'm a Florida State guy. So I watched Dalvin Cook all the way from college. I was saying he was going to be one of the best running backs in the NFL his junior year and whatnot. And so here we are, and we've seen what Dalvin Cook has done to us historically. But it's so critical that we do not revert back. And DeMarcus Lawrence, you said it. We're not that same team versus the Browns. I'm going to hold you to that. But we must stop the run because if they are able to just let Dalvin Cook just run rampant over us, it's going to be another long Sunday, Cowboys family. We might as well just go for a walk, go on for a picnic with the family. Just go wash your car, do all the fun stuff around the house because it's not going to be pretty. Second takeaway, we have to limit their big play wide receivers with Jefferson and also Adam Thielen. They have a credible rookie that's pretty much mirroring what our rookie is doing in CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson. Eagles fans, I know you're not going to admit it, but you messed up, okay? Eagles fans, you messed up by passing on Justin Jefferson. It was right there, but you were so rattled because we took CeeDee Lamb for it. You just panicked and just took a wide receiver when Justin Jefferson was right there for the taking. But our secondary, like I said, losing Diggs was big, but hopefully Cheeto can come back and add some veteran depth. So stopping that wide receiving core is going to be critical. Also, they do have Kyle Rudolph at the tight end position. And then one thing I'd like to see the Cowboys finally do is win the time of possession. Like, can we get back to that type of football? And the way that we do that is what we've been saying and preach on this show: run the football. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Run the football.
Would love to see that happen.
Yes. And I feel like Mike McCarthy, you just have to commit to it. Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy, commit to the run game. And, if Zeke gets stopped for a short loss or whatnot, just keep it going. Let him get into a rhythm. Let Tony Pollard come in, get into a rhythm. Because if we can get that run game going, that will keep the Vikings off balance and not allow them to peel back their ears and come for Andy Dalton. Because the one thing that the Vikings, they're not really good at, they're not really good at the pass rush, and they're not really good at with the pass game on defense. So if we're able to take advantage of those liabilities, especially in the secondary, I feel like we can have this a competitive game. But we have to establish the run game. If we're throwing the ball 40 times with Andy Dalton, Harrison Smith is still back there, so he's one play away for just changing the ball game. And so you don't want to get into that game. And then my last takeaway is protect Andy Dalton at all costs. Terrence Steele, you listen to me at all costs. I don't know if you got to put Blake Bell and Dalton Schultz over there on the right side. I don't know what you have to do, but we cannot let Andy Dalton get back there and get rattled because I feel like he'll start making mistakes, and you do not want him to throw the ball away because turnovers has been our Achilles heel for this season pretty much. And so we have to get away from that and protect the ball. So what are some of your takeaways from how we can actually beat the skull? I found out yesterday, shouts out to Unbar and Lumpus, they had me on their show yesterday. They finally told me what skull actually meant. I guess it's when they do their beer like that. That's what skull meant. I was like, okay, I thought it was an acronym, but it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, to be honest, I've done that too. Like, I remember one time I was like, what is a brown?
Right.
And you just kind of like research, you're like, you're like, where the heck did this come from?
Right, yeah. They're like,
but anyway, but I think against the Vikings, obviously one of the biggest things is going to be setting edges and winning that battle up front, obviously against Dalvin Cook. And I think one of the things with Dalvin Cook, obviously, he has the explosiveness, the balance, the patience on runs, letting the blocking develop. But I think it was Pro Football Focus, PFF was saying that he has the highest rushing grade against stacked fronts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's incredible.
He
So I
hits the
think
hole
just
hard. He hit when Dalvin Cook
right,
hits the hole, and that's what I was trying to tell people. Even in college, Dalvin Cook was always going to be a transcending running back. He just always had these little injuries, whether it's a hamstring or a knee or whatnot. But once Dalvin Cook hits the hole, he can get off to the races. And they also use him in the pass game a lot too. They actually flex him out a lot, use him in the screen game. So you really have to be aware of
right.
where he's at all times.
Right, but yeah, I was talking to Jalen about it today, and he was like, I mean, he can cut anywhere. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he just has an incredible one cut ability, and it just wrecks defenses. But yeah, and it's not even just that. I just I love watching the Vikings and even the Browns, with Kevin Stefanski carrying over the Gary Kubiak style.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of that old school rushing attack. You've
Mm-hmm.
got the outside zone, you've got the screens, you've got the multiple tight end formations, and then the play action passing game to open up the running game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just they do it so well, and they do it at such a high efficiency against so many different teams. And obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we know how it turned out against the Browns. But like DeMarcus said, this team isn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, it was a small sample size against the Steelers last week with, they were finally able to, stop guys at the line of scrimmage, not let runners break to, the second level and kind of, contain guys up front. Obviously credit to Antoine Woods, credit to Neville Gallimore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be huge against the Vikings. Because I think when I look at this season, I think one of the biggest issues, with the running game is you had, you know, when a play breaks down, you have corners kind of going back, shadowing players, running off. Well, then you have a defensive end, rushing inside. Well, then you have no containment on the outside,
Exactly.
where quarterbacks can run, where you have a ball carrier go. And obviously, if you get Dalvin Cook to the outside, it's off to the races.
Yeah. Good luck.
He's off. So yeah, it's gonna have to be everybody coming together. And I think having Sean back, like you said, having Leighton back, that's gonna help solidify that linebacker core.
Mhm.
But it's gonna have to be all hands on deck for him. And the communication too is so huge because it's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna make this risk, if I'm gonna go make this play, well, then I'm going to communicate with you, and you've got to have my back, and you've got
Mhm.
to be able to fill that gap. Well, you don't have that communication, and you have these just exposed holes and seams
Mhm.
that guys are able to exploit the Cowboys, and rush for 70 yards.
Mhm.
So this is going to be, honestly, I think the truest test. And yeah, they faced some great running backs, but they haven't faced a guy like Dalvin Cook.
Exactly.
So this game to me is going to be one of the best kind of gauges of where this defense is really. Yes, they've made some strides, but okay, let's see how you do against the Vikings high powered offense.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we speak about Dalvin Cook, but now, like I said, with Jefferson, also Thielen coming into play, they also have a pass game that's available. And Kirk Cousins, he's not a great quarterback, but he's enough to get a win. And we saw even on Monday night, he's able to use his legs a little bit, and so he's just a playmaker. He's a game manager, but sometimes that's all you need when you have these incredible weapons surrounding you. So, like I said, stop Dalvin Cook. Good luck, but you really have to be in sync, as you mentioned earlier. Communication, even in the secondary, because a lot of these plays that there was wide open, the first thing you see our cornerbacks do is turn back and look. Where were you supposed to be? Where's the safety supposed to be? Like, I thought we were in cover 3. No, I thought you were in like, you cannot have these plays, especially at the NFL level, because with these quarterbacks, if they catch you sleeping, it's good night, especially with these wide receivers. So hopefully this team will remain to settle down, especially on the defensive side of the ball, have communication, and move as a unit, and hopefully win the game. So I normally don't like to do predictions, but let's have a little fun. What's your prediction for Sunday's matchup?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Are you going to be washing the car on Sunday out?
I want to say Cowboys, but I have to go Vikings.
Yeah.
On this one. I mean, yes, we've made some strides on defense. You finally got some rhythm. We're able to move the ball downfield last week. We're able to, get the run game going. Tony Pollard had some incredible runs. His decisiveness this season has just been yes. But
let me ask
I
you.
don't think
So let me ask you, for a lot of Cowboys fans. So what do you think the difference is between how Tony Pollard runs the ball and we see the explosive pop versus Ezekiel Elliott?
I think too, and Zeke gets a lot of criticism, I think, as
The
well.
new scapegoat.
But yeah, I mean, because I think with them, a lot of people just look at rushing stats,
Mhm.
but that doesn't tell the whole story. You've also got to add in the pass protection and how their pass catching. You've got to look into so many different aspects of a running back and look at the full picture.
Mhm.
And he may not be averaging as many yards per carry or what have you. But I think a lot of it too is that so many teams they game plan around Zeke and in stopping Zeke.
Mhm.
And and so Tony Pollard is just kind of more of that free option, and he has taken full advantage and has done so much better. But at some point you've got to say, okay, well, Tony Pollard is the one that's moving the chains.
Mhm.
He's the one that's constantly gaining yards. He's quickly breaking the second level. He's showing that patience, the intuition, and getting the yards, making guys miss. And so why aren't we feeding him more? Why aren't we getting him more carries? And yes,
Mhm.
Ezekiel Elliott is your featured back.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's that's a whole like segment right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
To be
and
to be honest,
and I
going into
and I
going into all
and I said this. I think that and this is like the fourth week I said this, guy. So I'm not gonna hold my feet to the fire, but I think we might see a big game from Ezekiel Elliott on Sunday. I think going to the bye week, let him kind of clear his mind because I feel like Zeke was pressing a lot. This was kind of the first time he really didn't have Dak Prescott
right,
and have all these perfect situations. And we saw Dak Prescott go through this, his second year when Zeke was out. Like you try to do way too much. You feel like you got to put this team on your back and play hero ball. And I feel like Zeke hasn't been trusting the hole. Also, he's been overcompensating because he had all these fumbles. And so he's really
right.
overcompensating for a lot. Like he just needs to clear his mind. No, he knows what he's doing. Just trust your gut, trust your instincts, hit the hole, and then get to the next down. So I hopefully we'll see Ezekiel have a much better game. Plus, it's hard for Zeke to sit back and watch Dalvin Cook go for like 160 or 170, across the sideline. So I feel like
Yeah,
Zeke's really going to want to show out this game to show he's still one of those best backs in the NFL. So hopefully we see a reemergence of Ezekiel Elliott, because if not, Zeke, I can't get your back anymore, bro. Like this is like the fourth week in a row, and the chat's gonna start killing me. So Zeke, I need a big game from Ezekiel Elliott, but also Tony Pollard. Um, but I agree. I agree. If I'm going to be fair, until I can see what Andy Dalton brings to this team, y'all, I really can't say the Cowboys are going to
right.
win. So I really need to see it. Now, next on Thanksgiving might be a different situation, but I just need to see Andy Dalton take a leap forward, because what I seen, like I said, the first game he played, and then also that half against Washington, it didn't give me much confidence to go off. Like I
Yeah.
said, if I'm more
No.
confident in Garrett Gilbert, I that says a lot about Andy Dalton. So until I really see what he can bring to the table, I would say the Vikings will win this game. But Cowboys, we desperately just need a win. Like we just need a win. Just kind of shake the rust off, get on the winning side of things, and maybe we can get this ball rolling. I see my guy Tony said 6-1. Let's go. I'm just like, let's one game at a time.
Right.
One
And
game.
and like you said, I think that is one of the biggest things is just guys at the placement they're at right now putting so much pressure on themselves to
Mm-hmm.
try and perform. And especially guys that have, made mistakes like the fumbles like Zeke, or or rookie trying to make a name for himself and take advantage of those reps. And so, he's like, yeah, I gotta be perfect. I gotta, make this amazing play. I gotta out leverage this guy. But it's just like, just take it, play by play,
Mm-hmm.
calm down, and just you know clear the mind. And I think you started seeing that last week,
Mm-hmm.
and got and finally having some guys come back having a little bit more um consistency and chemistry and continuity and cohesiveness as a unit. But also, I don't think you can underplay also the job that Joe Looney did
Mm-hmm.
last week. I mean, he had no reps with Garrett Gilbert during practice, going through snaps, anything. And I mean, that was clean,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the game. And he did a great job, really kind of just
Mm-hmm.
anchoring that line,
Exactly.
really the entire game.
Mm-hmm. I'm a
And
huge Joe
so,
Looney fan. A lot of people don't like Joe Looney, thinking he's just the backup, but I think Joe Looney is a solid football player, even as a backup. And like you said, able just to
oh,
come
he
in
is.
on against that game against the Steelers and do a great job. Yeah, kudos to Joe Looney. So, there's another guy on the offensive line we didn't speak about him, but Connor Williams. He's kind of one of the other question marks that a lot of Cowboys fans have. But to be honest with you
Right.
guys, I don't see the Cowboys moving on for Connor Williams, so you guys might as well get used to him. I personally would like to see Connor Williams at right tackle, give him a shot, and maybe use Connor McGovern at the left guard position. But they're not going to listen to us, Cowboys fan. We've been
Oh
preaching this since the
no,
summer.
no, that's
So
too many moves,
too much moves. What did Mike McCarthy
too
say?
many
Fantasy
commitments.
fantasy football with the offensive line or whatnot. Like Mike McCarthy, you don't pick offensive line in fantasy football. But go ahead. Um, so yeah, so guys gotta get used to Connor Williams. So like I said, I expected a competitive game Sunday. Hopefully the Dallas Cowboys can get a win and get back on the roll, start to get into these divisional games, and maybe, just maybe, we could talk about playoffs. Playoffs. And so, because Jerry
I mean,
would love to sell those playoff tickets. So
how do
he'll
you even like reconcile that with yourself though? Like, oh god, like, oh, 4-12, like, yeah, we
yeah,
won the
we'll have
no.
our division
We
champs
talked about
shirts
that
and
match.
hats or whatnot. So it's really just to give us a leg up over these Eagles fans. That's all we really want. So, but Jerry Jones, he's going to open up the stadium a little bit more, add a little bit more fans. So if we can get to playoffs, man, we might be in there about 60,000 deep again. You never know with Jerry. So Brianna, I
Their case
appreciate you.
is spiking, but let's bring in more people.
Yeah, oh yeah. COVID's going up,
You
but
know,
forget that. More
it's
people.
like
It's safe. COVID
just
does not.
pack them in.
COVID doesn't exist inside AT&T Stadium because all the airflow and the
Yeah, because the airflow,
the
there's space.
airflow, an airborne virus and the airflow. Go ahead, Jerry. Just say you just don't care. You want my money. It's okay. I said I'm already getting emails from Jerry Jones for 2021 season tickets. They're already out for sale. So they're already trying to get those things for sale for 2021. I'm like, Jerry, can you just get me a safety first? Then we can start talking about all this going on.
Right. I
So
mean, you have the NFL going into intensive protocol now. You have the Cowboys coaching staff in the Omni Hotel creating a bubble-like
yeah,
atmosphere. But sure,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
bring
More people
in
though. More people. More the
yeah,
merrier,
but
right?
more thousands of fans.
Exactly.
We gotta have them in here.
Exactly. Gotta love Jerry. Well, Brianna, I definitely appreciate you for joining us tonight. So for the people just coming in, where can they find you, all your content, all your information?
Yes, so I'm on Twitter at Dix Brianna or on Instagram at Brianna M. Dix. And then also on D210 Sports website, d210.tv. There, all my videos and articles are on the website.
Perfect. Well, like I said, I appreciate you for joining us. Hopefully, we can get a Cowboys win, and you'll have to come back again. We can talk about this victory, and we can do our skull for beating the Vikings. But I will say this, Vikings fans, you guys do have that. I forgot what the chant's called. Where they do like the little Viking chant after they score a touchdown. It's pretty cool. Like I always say, as a Cowboys fan, we're kind of boring. We don't have like no signature like theme song or chant that we do. It's just kind of let's go Cowboys, or how about those
Yeah, we don't
Cowboys.
have
But
like the Fly Eagles Fly chant.
yeah, the Fly Eagles Fly
So crazy.
chant, or the Arrowhead chant, or what the Vikings have. So we need to get creative and come up with something, man. Like something that's kind of cool that will stand out after we score a touchdown, which we haven't scored one in so long. I was actually surprised when we scored when
You're
CeeDee Lamb
thinking
got in
the
the end zone.
Vikings have won 3 straight. So
Yeah,
I mean, hey,
exactly. So hopefully,
goes.
exactly. So like I said, I appreciate you for coming on, guys. I appreciate you all for watching the chat, man. And like I said, I always say, stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged, and we're gonna see you on their side. Cowboys Sunday. Let's get a win. Let's go Cowboys.